So I tend to do these videos without, because I actually run an agency with decent amount of clients. I've got about 15 staff and developers, and it's a lot
Cool.
to manage. But I've just seen so many people in the community not really know how to move their projects forward. And I look, from my point of view, I think that um, Brilliant Directories will grow as a platform, and more people will use it. And I think that with a few years' effort and helping people, maybe I can position myself as somebody that can give advice and maybe take on work. My agenda isn't to sort of get work right now, to be honest with you. Um, so today's call really is a good opportunity to sort of just get. So SEO is really, I think SEO is a really, or search engine optimization, or trying to get traffic and trying to turn your website into something that you can, generate an income from. They're all bespoke projects. I don't like this one size fits all approach because I think every market is different. And I appreciate you reaching out to me because um, it gives me an opportunity to maybe have a call with you and share it with other BD members, and then just look at some of the things and consider some of the things we need to think about with your website. And I'm not the only expert out there. There's lots of really good professionals in the BD space and outside the BD space. But I feel like I've accomplished enough that maybe I can point people in the right direction. But I'm not saying I'm the master and I know it all, because I definitely don't know it all. So from James, just if for the purpose of the video, for the people that watch it, could you explain what your website is, just to maybe anyone who doesn't know it, and really what you're looking to accomplish with it? I'm just going to pull the website up. What's the website address again?
prisonartusa.com.
That's nice and straight to the point. Okay. Yeah, so you want to tell us a little bit about the site, and then I'm probably going to ask you some questions, and we're going to look at a few things while we're on the call as well.
Cool.
So, it seems straightforward in terms of what you're looking to. And I might be asking you to repeat something you told me 5 minutes ago, but just for the benefit of anyone watching this video, could you summarize what you're looking to do with the site?
Yeah, I want to provide a platform for family members of incarcerated artists and formerly incarcerated artists, and I want to do it at low cost just for the monthly plan. Uh, Otherwise, to get anywhere, they would have to pay commissions or per listing fees like on eBay or Amazon or SD. So I want to provide uh, this platform for them so the families can actually help support themselves while their incarcerated family members away. Worked in the Department of Corrections for over 20 years, and I got to know quite a few artists, and I was amazed by their work. So I just kind of want to create that link. And other than the name Prison Art USA, I want to give the artist a mainstream uh, exposure. But the name really just identifies the niche.
No, that to be honest, with you, a lot of people get that part of their website project wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good if the brand matches the intent of the searcher. Because if I'm looking for prison art and I see a website called Prison Art USA, you've already got a small yes from me in terms of what I'm looking for. Um, but what's really interesting about your site is you're seeing barriers to entry for a particular audience, and you're thinking, well, maybe I can offer a solution to that. And I'm a big fan of niche sites. I think that if the niche, sometimes niches can be crazy niche, and it might be too niche for you to be able to make any money out of. But this sort of project looks to me like something that has a lot of opportunity. So, have you ever looked online to see some of the other sites out there that might be doing something in your space? Or have you ever sort of done that? I'm about to show you how we would do that, and then really just look at the opportunity, really. But I just wondered if you'd ever done that.
Yeah, I'm constantly looking and through Google and checking out various sites. There's one site, prisonart.com. They basically sell product out of Mexico prisons,
Okay.
which is really a very active site.
Let's have a
I'm
look at
looking
it.
at one. I'm
Yeah.
looking at one now. Fineartamerica.com. Uh, it's kind of like Etsy. You just select your genre, and go to the prison art. Some beautiful artwork there. You can check it out. What
What was
kind
the
of talent?
second? What was the second one?
Fineartamerica.com.
Okay, I reckon I can find them on the brand. There we go.
Right.
So they probably just have a section for prison art, do they? Do you think?
Correct. Yes.
It doesn't say on here, but it's probably a little landing page they've created. Let me see. I just want to have a look at things in my SEO tool.
Mhm.
Uh, just I've got lots of people logged in, but I'll just quickly go in here. So let's actually look at the main, what would potentially be the main search term for your market. So if I put prison art, because I think most people won't qualify it as USA straight away. They'll be so I'm after, if I'm interested in prison art, I'd probably search prison art, right? So if I
Yes.
search that, and we can see that in the USA, this tool estimates it's searched 3,000 times. And of those 3,000 times, the keyword difficulty means that when you see something under 50%, that's a huge opportunity because generally you can imagine how long, the web's been around now, that there'll be a lot of sites on there.
Right.
So what we've got some metrics here that will just tell us a little bit about the site, but there are some things that, for example, favor sites, that I want to sort of tell you about, because sometimes you might think that SEO is a case of just reaching metrics. A lot of people do, but there are so many factors that come into it. So the two things this is the existing. So if I click view SERP here, funny enough, I was doing a video earlier and I didn't have that option, and now it's there. But if this is actually a simulation of how people would search this online. So when you're searching your machine, the results start changing based on your search behavior. But if someone was searching this for the first time on a desktop computer, the first thing they'd see is images. So one thing that you probably hadn't thought about, or maybe thought about, is one of the goals for you would be to try and get your image in these considered images. And there's a whole playbook to that, because sometimes people might, for the industry you're in, someone might just think, I really like the look of that. That's what I was looking for, and they'll click it, and then it might take them to a product listing page, right?
Right. Right.
We can see this Mexico, you're right, the Mexico site's here, and the first page ranking here is there about us, which actually means they've not really thought about search engine optimization, because generally an about us page for that search intent would generally mean there's not a lot of good results for you to compete with. Um,
Right.
and when you look at search results, what you realize, if you start seeing a mixture of things of people who also ask and all this, it means that the intent or the reason why people searched is so different that Google's putting a bunch of different results on there. So we can see, for example, there's a news result here. This is interesting. Have you seen this art for redemption before?
Yes.
Yeah. So this looks like it's matching the intent of your site, and I'm presuming these guys charge a fortune, do they? If you want to work with them, is that
Yes.
part of what you were referring to? Um,
Right.
and this looks like some kind of, maybe it's got a .org, some kind of charitable organization, and this looks like a video. So our goal, I'm presuming your goal, is to get visible when people are searching in this way. Would that be sort of an accurate way to
Correct.
understand? Yeah, and what's challenging really is that we've just got so many different types of search results. But don't be discouraged by that, because I think there's definitely, this is something that you potentially could break into, right? Now, being
Right.
realistic, the time span to accomplish that, and this might be a little bit deflating to hear, I'd rather be honest with you, is probably about a year's work at the minimum. Um,
Mhm.
and that is because a lot of those results you've seen here, the hidden SEO factors, is that these results have been there over a period of time, and Google trusts these links. Like, for example, this prisonart.com only has 14 websites that actually mention it, which is very, very low, and it's
Mhm.
ranking first. So
Yeah.
I'd want to take a closer look at that and think, well, why are they ranking first? What's on their page or that and it could be just one of those links is so powerful that it's just push it to the top.
Hmm.
Um, and generally, remember, Google can't see images; it can only see text, right? So we can see there's a reasonable amount of text here, not a lot. So I think this website's been around a long time. I'm going to check right now how long this website's been around. If it's been around more than 20 years, that would explain why it might rank so well. So I use this tool called a Wayback Machine, and that sort of that will just tell me if the SEO is there because of historical factors. And this is almost like an archive. If okay, I'm just going to go to the main site, not that about us page. Hang on, it's giving me right. So it's like that. So I'm just going to click that. Let's see how far back this site goes. So this is
Okay.
quite important for a lot of the BD owners or license holders like yourself, because you've got to realize that what a lot of people don't realize is you're starting a site and Google's trusting a site that's been around. Actually, it's not as long as I thought, since 2014. That's not really a long time. 8 years. It's probably long enough for it to have won a lot of trust with Google. We can even see the old iterations of the site here. So, so this is definitely achievable for you, 100%. Um,
Right.
and you can see that they've got two results here. And funnily enough, actually, I was looking at the referring domains of the About Us page, but the referring domains of the home page is at 69. So that's not too bad. But the sites I work on, or the sites that are optimized, can have up to 700 referring domains. And to be very clear, people do things like they buy links and that sort of thing. I very, very much advise against that. So if you wanted to sort of build the people linking to you, you want other sites in your niche pointing to you ideally. So, maybe if there's organizations campaigning for prison art or even
Correct.
campaigning for, helping families, I would advise you or maybe someone employed by you reaches out to such organizations and says, look, could you please mention our site? We're trying to get visibility online and you could really help us. And I think with your type of website, you'd get a lot of links and then you can really start breaking into this. So the first job with your SEO project, which you could do yourself, or you could get someone outsource help, even hire like a trainee to do it for you, is to really reach out to organizations. Even some of these in the search result might point to you because you're really pushing a worthy cause. Um, so that would then help you build trust with Google because I'm presuming you don't probably have a lot of links to your site right now.
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be the first thing to look at, right?
Mm.
Um, then the next thing is what I would do is I would actually start looking at a lot of these variations. So if we look at prison art drawings, for example, the search results for this might be different because Google might think the intent's different. So let's have a look at that. And this is something I was saying in one of my early videos when I started doing this video series, that you've got to think of your website as different pages. So we would probably want the search result for prison art drawings. We probably want a dedicated page for that keyword and for any
Mm.
similar keywords. And we can see, for example, we've got sites like Pinterest and eBay and Etsy showing on here, then Art for Redemption, right? Which means there's
Right.
an opportunity for you to be in the mix because we're seeing news results in here. So for something like this, what's really exciting is there's an opportunity to get your site in there. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, are there kind of horizontal niches within the prison art niche? Like, are there sort of prison art types?
Do you mean
Like, for example, we've got pencil prison art drawings, for example.
yes?
Um, so that's, sorry, I'm going to have to reject that call. Sorry about that. That's Google Ads trying to call me and give me bad advice. Always trying to do that. They're really annoying.
Well, yeah, there's different, quite a few. I mean, there's quilting, there's woodworking, uh, uh, oil paintings, watercolor paintings, pencil drawings.
Okay. So for that, we would want to maybe just make sure the structure of your site has a landing page for each, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I've got so many tabs open here, I've got lost track of which one has your site in it. But let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So one of the things that I advise all the BD members to do is to build what is called a stored page or a static page
Mhm.
through each type. And then when you do that, um, what you want to do is you need this to be unique, some of the content to be unique for Google to understand that this page is for that topic. So one of the things that we would do is you've got to make sure you see this thing. Can you see what I'm hovering over here? That section there, where over the X. Can you see that text there?
Uh, I can't see anything on your camera.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me share my screen. Have I not been sharing my screen all this time?
No.
I've just been talking all this time. Oh my goodness. Let me share my screen. I'm so sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen. Uh, yeah. So I've been talking a lot, which is just not going to be very helpful. Right. So if we look at your site here,
Mhm.
so I assumed I was sharing my screen, which is just crazy. Um, this page here, for example, if I it looks like you've got the categories in there, right? So if I go to categories like ceramics and I click
Yeah.
search now, um,
There's something on what the word I'm looking for? Airbrush and beadwork.
yeah, I saw those too. What I wanted to explain to you is see this page here.
Yeah.
Uh, let me just get to the page I'm on. Right, can you see that's present art, the currently formerly, where it says that that
Correct.
that particular bit of text is what Google looks at to understand what your page is about. It's actually quite an important piece of markup, right? So this needs to be unique for each of your categories. Um, so what you need to do is you need to think of all the different categories you have, and we need to have a unique listings page for each. That's really, really important. So if
Mhm.
I go back to your home page, and let's say we've got these categories here, like you've got leatherwork, needlework, painting, photography. The destination that we go to um, has to have a unique title, and it all says the same thing. Can you see that?
Mhm.
So that's holding you back. Um, and what I'd also say is you probably want some listings on here so that the page has got some data for Google to read. Um, but the whole idea behind optimizing for search engines is if you look at all these different searches. Sorry, I was in here earlier assuming you could see what I could see. Um, but for all these different searches that happen, so this is just an example of all the different searches that you have. Um, for those, we want a dedicated page, or we want to figure out what page we're going to send people. Are you following me so far?
Right.
So I'll go back to the metrics I was looking at earlier because I was talking about this and I wasn't, and you couldn't see the screen and I didn't know. Um, this is when people search prison art, this is what they see. Um, so this is what I was talking about. They'll see images. They'll see the Mexican site, and then they'll see, art from redemption. We can see appears a lot, um, and a few news articles, but it's definitely not. It's not something where the competition is that high. So if you look at here in terms of keyword difficulty, it's not it's not extremely high.
Mhm.
So that means there's definitely an opportunity for you within the space of a year to break in there. Um, and I was talking about the number of links each site had. So if you look here, you can see, for example, Prison Art has about this number is how many websites point to them, and you can see, for example, Art for Redemption only has 20 links pointing to them, and they already do really well for SEO. So
Mhm.
you'd only have to go a little ways with your outreach to other organizations to link to you to catch up. You haven't. There are other niches where, for example, the competition would have 700-800 links, and that would be really, really hard to, that would take a really long time to close the gap. So let's have a look at this Art for Redemption site. If we look at Art for Redemption, for example, I'll show you an example I was talking about having unique pages. So if I click this Pages tab, we can see how many pages they have that appear in the search results. Can you see that? It's a little bit
Yeah.
unexpanded. I don't know if you can expand that in SEMrush, you can't. But what we can do is we can make sure that we have a version of some of these pages ourselves, because we know that Google's actually indexing these pages because it thinks that people want to visit these pages. So let's have a quick look here. This looks more like pages for specific artists by the look of it, and some news. So nothing that's really around search intent. But are there any are there known artists in your space?
I'm sorry.
Are there sort of recognized artists in the prison art space that
Well,
people?
yes, there are. And I'm trying to set up the membership of the members page as a artist profile.
Just so that you can, yeah, because it looks like people look for specific artists as well, um,
Yes.
by the looks of things. Um, so in terms of an SEO project, I mean, at the early stages, I normally recommend, you know, getting some pointers in terms of what what to do in terms of sort of an SEO strategy,
Mhm.
and that is, starting off, thinking about what keywords you need on your site, what keywords are we going after. So if we go back to the prison art, I'll just go back a couple. If it'll let me. So for example, here we know the prison art is kind of the master, like the main keyword for our industry, but you can also see there are other ones in here that appear common. So studying this and understanding really what it is that people are searching, what's relevant to us, and then
Mhm.
how do we map our website to match that? But in your niche, there might be things that people are searching for that aren't on this radar because it's so niche. So really think about, what would you be searching, or what do potential buyers of prison art, what would they be searching? And then the next step would be to configure this website so that it can offer a result for each of those searches. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, those would be the two levers really: content, the content part of it, and then of course getting relevant organizations to link to you. And at this stage, I wouldn't recommend you engage someone like myself or my agency to do that groundwork. Um,
Hmm.
where and a lot of people watching this video, the video I'm putting together now, they might think, okay, if I hire an SEO person, they're going to do the work, I'll pay them, and at some point I'll reach X point, and that is generally a it's a road to disappointment for a lot of people who try and build a successful directory website, and that's simply because a lot of the SEO agencies out there, it's such a new industry. They struggle to deliver or understand those market niches. So it's really important. My advice is at the early stages that you own that internally. Um, and then when you reach a point where you've got a clear outline of what your scope of work is, what is it you need to do? Okay, so I need to create content for all these pages I need. I haven't got time to do that. I'm going to outsource that. I need all these links. And I've got to a point where I've exhausted everything. Now I need someone a bit smarter to come in and do something a bit more strategic. Maybe they'll do an article about prison art and maybe send that out and try and get me some PR and that sort of thing. That's the point where I think you can engage an SEO agency, or actually hire a trainee, or find whatever cost-effective way you can do it. But what's definitely, what's basic in the path of you getting more online visitors right now, if I was to sort of break it down to two things from a very quick evaluation of your site, there are other factors and things, but to be honest, the two main levers for you would be: one is I want to be mentioned more by relevant companies, and then two, the big one I would say is we need to structure this site and make sure there's content in there. It's a little bit content light if I go for it by category, but make sure there's content in there so that when the searcher comes, they find something, they find what they're looking for. So if that means showcasing some members at the early stages so that you've got content for visitors, I would definitely recommend that. And then technically, um, really making all of the content unique so that Google understands, okay, this particular page is for bead prison work. This is for pencil prison work. This is for someone that's looking for prison art drawings. This is for somebody who, for example, might be searching, let's look back at some of these search terms, if I was to look at some of the other recommendations. And there are free tools. You don't need to use SEMrush, by the way. I've been thrown out of it, so that's a perfect opportunity to look at some free tools. There's something called Uber Suggest. You can only use it a certain amount of times a day. I think I've got another keyword that I can use. So if I just put prison art in here, hopefully it doesn't start nerfing me. So this will just sort of tell me, it will give me some data, and actually straight away, what's good about this tool is it start giving me some ideas. Now what you don't want to do is have separate pages for things that are similar. So you probably have one page to cover both of these terms because they're pretty much they want the same thing at the end point. If that does that make sense?
Yes.
Um, and then, for example, prison art cell could be different because someone who wants prison art cell has slightly different intent. They're looking for a bit of a bargain, right? So,
Mhm.
so we might put some special offers and build a page around that. And then if you've got a page that matches each, like if you look at prison art Mexico, yeah, it's not your niche, but even if you used to dress to get, if you just wanted to get people to the site, you could just showcase or do an article about prison art in Mexico and start becoming a bit of an authority. Um,
Mhm.
so has what I've said, because obviously I've done a lot of talking, right? I've not done a lot of listening. Listening is I'm terrible at listening. Has a lot of what I've talked about, does that sort of resonate in terms, or does that enlighten you in terms of what you might want to do with your project?
Yes, absolutely. And I've done it before, and I've actually started doing outreach with a couple of companies, and there is a prison network of various organizations that I'm trying to work with right now. Uh, but yeah, I need to educate myself on how to individualize these pages and get the content to display on those pages.
Well, I'll be doing a video series which is a bit more technical to talk about how that can be accomplished. So
Okay.
I'm quite happy to go back over your site in the sort of series and actually, you know, give some specific pointers to you if you'd like. But I think the first thing that I'd like you to do, and I think the thing that would help you is literally just get an Excel sheet together and just start writing. Come to a site like this, like Upassagist, and start writing and structuring things. Um, Based on what you think. Remember, the irrelevancy is a key. We don't want traffic for the sake of traffic, but just have a
Mhm.
look in here and just think, oh, this is relevant for me. I could have a page on that. I can help searchers with this and start building a bit of a list. Um,
Right.
and then the next part's quite easy. We know the destination we want to get to, right? We just got to figure out how to get there. So, in other words, we know what pages we want on a site and why we want those pages there. We just need to then think about how do we create them from a technical standpoint. And I've got developers and things like that that can help if you did want to source me for that. But genuinely, I'm not trying to pitch you for your business. Although I should be, I'm probably the world's worst salesperson. But I feel like at this stage of what I'm trying to accomplish is for me not to have an agenda to try and win business, which sounds nuts. But you know, even with your project, it's going to take building some goodwill and creating a good website before you can think about how you can generate an income and help the families you're trying to help at the same time. So in a similar way, it's like that for me. I'm trying to give people the right advice, and then I'll get to a point where I can think, well, how can I continue doing that? And if there's a monetization opportunity, great. If there isn't, I'd just like to see where this might take me, you know, because I think a lot of people don't really know how to think. They sometimes need just a bit of pointing in the right direction, and I'm just hoping that what I'm doing right now with these videos can help, if that makes sense. Although I should remember to share my screen a bit more often if I am to do these videos. So, I mean, have you got any questions for me? Anything that's piqued your curiosity?
Uh, no, I definitely have to. I'm retired now, so I got time to work on this, and I do a little bit each day. Uh, so it's good to touch bases on an actual SEO and figure out where I need to go from here.
Well, you know,
Um,
I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I started off doing a lot of this online project work in my spare time when I was trying to learn about online because I worked in a really print environment before, and they didn't want to believe online was happening, so I had to do it all in my spare time. So I know what you mean. Is like it's nice just to have a little, and you know what, those incremental steps that you take every day. SEO doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Online visibility doesn't happen overnight. It's all those little stepping, and Google likes to see incremental progressive because it's a real pattern. If someone does a whole bunch of stuff overnight, then that doesn't generally mean that will look like a legitimate footprint to Google, if that makes sense. So the way you're
Right.
doing it is probably the best way. But I think there's looking at your site and talking about it today, I think there's so much potential there, James. Just so much. I think if I was to prioritize things, I would probably really start. I would probably split the outreach and then, you know, thinking about the website journey about half your time. There are some other SEO things, factors that could help your site and that are more technical, but the foundation of what you're trying to accomplish is what I've talked to you about in this video. If you focus on those two things, you'll be fine. And I know you said that maybe there'll be some work and opportunity for us, but I just think at this stage where you are and while you've got time, it doesn't make sense hiring an SEO person until you've got your hands dirty a bit and you feel like, okay, you know what? I know what I'm doing here. I know why I'm doing it, and now I'm going to outsource it. And that's advice for anyone watching this video. That's the stage where you should probably engage in SEO. Don't engage in SEO to sort of be a magic bullet because most of the time you will be disappointed. I can
Right.
guarantee that would be my advice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, I'll check in with you, and you're more than welcome to message me on Facebook or email me. Now you have my email. If you've got any other questions, even if they're random, I'd be more than happy. It doesn't take a lot of my time to because this is what I sort of do every day. To sort of fill you in if you have got anything that
Right.
you're not sure about. Um, So yeah, I don't know if this has been useful for you in terms of the discussion. I'm just sorry I didn't share the video in all that time. That's so silly of me.
Well, it's useful in the sense that, I got some other feedback other than my own because I've been looking at it for so long. There's things I can't see or I'm not aware of. So, sometimes I'm a one-man show and it just feels like I'm on an uphill battle here. So this is really helpful.
Great. Well, look, I'll just pause the video here.